Okay, I'm here with a ventriloquist legend among the world of ventriloquism, Mr. Bill DeMar. He's also known as the master of sight and sound. Now, Bill, can you just tell us briefly, where were you born?
Evansville, Indiana.
And can you tell us the year? Or would that be giving away too much?
November the 20th, 1931.
1931. Now, Bill, you have been doing ventriloquism approximately how long?
54 years.
54 years. Now, how did you first start in ventriloquism? Did you start as a child or a teenager?
Teenager.
And how did you get an interest in ventriloquism?
Well, Bergen, Charlie McCarthy, Edgar Bergen was one of my favorite. I was a radio nut, and I had my ear in the speaker all the time. And the Edgar Bergen, Charlie McCarthy show was one of my favorite of all shows. As a result of hearing all those different characters on Amos and Andy, Lum and Abner, Fibber McGee and Molly, Fred Allen, Jack Benny, I was doing all the voices of all those characters.
Mimicking the voices.
Mimicking. And, yeah, I wasn't doing their voices. But, yeah, so I did impressions. I started out doing impressions. And got interested in magic, little pocket magic. That's all I could afford. It was over a quarter, I couldn't afford it. Was in high school, and they had an annual event in the high school I went to called the Big Broadcast, taken from the Big Broadcast.
Right.
I was passing a craft shop that was right by the school, and I never went in the place because I didn't have any hobbies, I didn't have any crafts, couldn't do anything, and for some reason or other, I decided to go in. A lot of the boys were going in there, and we were on a lunch break, and I decided to go in. And they had blocks of balsa wood. Well, I knew nothing about wood, pine, balsa. It was all just wood to me. I didn't know one wood from another. And I was sort of impressed to buy 2 blocks of balsa wood and took them home, got my mother's paring knife and my father's saw, and I cut out a head out of that balsa. I didn't know you couldn't cut across balsa wood, only one way. But I cut it anyway, It was crude, but it worked. And made up a body. I didn't know how to make a body. It was a wooden frame, and I put on wooden arms and legs, about 1.5 or something or other square strips, and took metal pieces and fastened them together at the elbow, a nail in each, so that it could, bend.
Oh, so it could bend, okay.
And got children's gloves and poured plaster in them and let them harden into shape, and tacked them onto the wooden arm. So there was my arms, and did the same thing with the legs, and the feet were, I believe the feet were stuffed. I'm not sure about that. I can't remember whether they were stuffed or whether I had carved them out of balsa wood too. But in any case, and I never thought about putting the figure into a suitcase. It wouldn't have gone anyway. It wouldn't bend, And I had gone uptown to Neisner's or Kresge's or Woolworth and bought a $1.95 cowboy suit in a box. You could do that at that time. And I got a hat, and being we didn't own a car, I rode the bus. And I'm getting on the bus, and I see one of my school friends. And he said, what have you been doing? I said, well, I just made a dummy, you know. And he said, "Ah, you did?" He said, you can be in the talent contest tonight.
Tonight.
Yeah. I said, no, I can't do that. He says, yes, you've got to be in the talent contest. He was very insistent. And he says, you come up and be in the talent contest. I got to have you on the show. He was the MC. And I thought, my God, I'm not ready for this, you know. I had taken crepe hair that the women used, rolled up and used as a filler for different hair shapes and buns and things. And spread that out and put it on his head and painted it the best I knew how, and made a jaw mechanism of my own creation.
Now, how much time did you have to do all this?
The afternoon.
Oh, gosh.
And I thought, wait a minute. I'm not carrying this dummy down the street for 2 blocks and getting on the bus and paying extra fare, you know, and
With the wet paint.
I said, no. And I called him up. I says, if you want me up there, you're going to have to come and get me in a car because I'm not carrying this thing up on the bus. So he came in the car. Well, I wasn't quite ready yet. He said, well, I've got to get up there, you know. I said, well, you take the figure on out to the car and take him on up there, and I'll come up on the bus. He said, okay. I turned around, started getting ready, and he was back in the house again. He says, all I did was pull the string. Well, he pulled the thing right out. It was out of my, God, there's no way. This thing went, you know, like this. I thought, gee. And I said, I'll think about it on the way up, you know, and I'm trying to think. You can't go in through the mouth and hook it or anything. You can't go up through the, yeah. I couldn't come up with an easy solution. I got there. It was a necessity that I had to take, tear the crepe hair apart, break the paint line, undo the screws from the back of the neck, take the head apart, and restring it.
Oh, boy.
And tie another knot and put it back together. I'm putting it back together, and they're introducing me.
Oh, wow.
They never checked whether I was ready or not, but they're introducing me. And I thought, and I'm slapping the thing on and slapped his hand on, and I was a little late getting on stage, and I ran out because I was in the kitchen, and the stage is outside, you know. And I ran out through the fence and up on stage, and not knowing, not having seen live or anything, I didn't know about standing, and I sat down in a chair. I'd seen old pictures, and they were sitting in a chair, you know. So I sat in a chair to do it, and my leg is shaking like mad, nervous as heck. And I had learned a routine from a book that supposedly Edgar Bergen wrote, but when Bill Boley asked about him, he said he didn't know anything about it.
Oh, boy.
But it had an Edgar Bergen routine in it involving a cowboy suit that he supposedly bought, that he said. Well,
It's the cowboy story.
so oh yes, I'm on stage, and my leg is shaking, and Edgar Bergen is trying to establish where Charlie got the cowboy suit, and getting a lot of runaround and everything, and then he gave him some lessons on writing and everything. It wound up that Charlie had stolen it out of Kenny Dugan's basement. It was a talent contest. I don't know if I established that or not. The audience, which was all teenagers, were screaming that I was the winner. And he said, no, he said, we have judges that determine that. And a couple of minutes later, he says, okay, Bill DeMar is the winner, and he wins the $5. Whoop-de-doo.
Didn't even come
So-
across to the dummy.
Yeah, and I went to another teenage club the following weekend that was also having a talent contest, the teenagers, and I won that too. and it's been downhill ever since.
Now, when did you get your first figure from Frank Marshall?
I didn't get the present, Chuck, until I got out of the service on the way home from Germany, and I shipped back to mustered out in Wisconsin someplace, I think, and I was able to come down through Chicago. How I ever found Frank Marshall's house, I have no recollection, don't know. But
How
I
have you
did.
heard of Frank?
That I don't know either, but I did. I had a Turner figure after a while, which was better than the one that I made,
Right.
and I used that in the service and got in special services and using that one. And when I got out of the service and I heard about the Marshall figures and stuff, and I had $350 mustering out pay. So I come down through Chicago and stopped at Frank Marshall's and told him what I wanted. I tried to draw a picture that I wanted a sort of a round-faced, cheeky boy, and he said, okay. I said, how much would that be? I said, I only got $350 mustering out pay. He said, it'll be $325. I had later, many years, learned that Johnny Main and that other fellow that lives in Chicago there, what's his name? Anyway, they had bought figures about the same time that I did, which was in 1954, and they only paid $150. So I guess I had sucker stamped on my forehead.
You told him how much money you had.
Yes, well, see, I was a very naive person to it. And he shipped it to me, and it was nothing at all what I wanted. Not at all. In fact, it looked older than I did. And I was 21, I believe, at the time. So I shipped it back to him. And he shipped me his standard, which was a duplicate of Danny O'Day and
Humphrey.
Huh?
Humphrey?
No. Paul Winchell's,
Oh,
Jerry
Jerry.
Mahoney.
Okay.
Jerry Mahoney. Same sort of thing. When I found that out, which was a year or two or so later, I went about changing the nose, changing the arch and shape of the eyebrows, taking out the cleft from the chin, little subtle changes so that he did not look like a Danny O'Day or Jerry Mahoney. One of my first jobs on a regular basis with a hillbilly band, I played the harmonica, and during the, had a break, and I did a 15-minute act, and then I got a job working as a stripper. I mean,
What?
working with a stripper, and that was new to me, but I had to cope. I needed the money. I worked strip clubs for quite a few years, and I eventually graduated to schools. That is a step up.
Yeah.
And did school assemblies for about 20 years, 18 or 20 years. And
What was
then
your most memorable performance, be it good or bad?
memorable performance?
One that really stands. You know, when you think about all the shows you've done, and there've probably been thousands, what is the most memorable? The one that you think about, either good or bad? Like, oh boy, if I ever had another show like that, or God, if I never had another show like that.
Yeah. Well, there were both of those. I was just telling somebody the other day, they were from Connecticut, and I had worked, in the New York area and Jersey and Connecticut. And I found the audiences in Connecticut to be exceptional. Got tremendous response there for some reason or other. I didn't question it, I just accepted it. And when I did this, travel to do the schools, I found a very good response from the audience in Nebraska. Why, I don't know, none of the other states in between. And the same thing in the state of Washington. They were very good. Oklahoma was not a good state for a good response from audiences.
Didn't go well in the Big O, huh?
Not good, not good. They said that you would not get anything, you don't expect anything in the Dakotas. So you'd be working a lot of Indian schools, and the Indians don't laugh. Well, that was one of the dumbest statements I ever heard, because Indians do laugh very readily and very well, and they did. They were a very good audience. Not very many. They're sparse. I had to travel a ways, to get from one school to another. And but they weren't bad. I was working the Carousel Club in Dallas after the assassination of John Kennedy, and it was run by Jack Ruby, who had shot Oswald, and he was in jail. And the owner of the club had taken over and run. But there was when you're standing on stage and the only audience is FBI or secret agents, and there's no response, and you're doing jokes to pitch black, there's no light out there.
Just a spotlight on you.
Yeah, just on me. And I can't time anything because there's no response. And I see like a match going back and forth in the dark, and I'm what is, I didn't know what that was, I didn't know what it was. It turned out to be some guy that wanted to make contact with me or something. He wasn't a government agent of any kind, just some guy. And that was unnerving, very unnerving. Bad shows.
Well, now, you knew W.S. Berger, yes? Briefly?
Newberger.
Yeah.
Newberger. I thought you said Newberger. No, yes, I knew Berger. Yes, I had visited several times when he was living, and he was at the IBM convention in Columbus, Ohio in 1968. I'm guessing 8 or 9.
Now, did he really have the kind of love for this thing that we've all been told?
He was overflowing with
Passion.
Passion, yes, definitely.
Did
Did
Muzz share that love? His wife?
No.
Not like him.
No.
She tolerated it.
She tolerated, yes. The lady that came in as a housekeeper after Muzz died was much better as far as that goes. But she was a housekeeper.
Yeah.
And a gentleman that I had seen and met, Max Terhune, on a couple of previous occasions, and he was at the 68 convention and performed. We, as it was with the IBM, the Ventriloquist had one room, and that everybody gathered in that one room, and that you kept isolated and away from the magician. And we had a fair sized group. There might have been 30 or 40 ventriloquists there. Bill Boley was emceeing, and Max Terhune was just breaking people up. But he loved to perform. He loved to do barnyard sounds
And just
polyphony,
impromptu kind of stuff.
anything,
Yeah.
anything. He did all kinds, without any coaxing. You know, he was ready.
It's like the Johnny Main of his day.
Okay. I didn't meet Johnny Main until I came here, and I'm thinking it was my first convention, and I'm thinking 76. And Johnny Main came down for some reason or other and sat right next to me. And I didn't know who he was. And there was a fellow on stage that was trying to do his act, and he was very rough with the figure, putting him in the case, in the suitcase, and everything. It was hysterical. And Johnny is rocking in the chair, just breaking up and laughing. And I'm laughing, not with the fellow, but at the fellow. And he introduced himself, and I introduced myself, and we became good friends right off the bat. It would just seem like a natural, you know. Of course, it's easy to be natural with Johnny May. And came to several conventions after that.
Now, you've been coming to these things a long time. You've been in this art a long time. You've seen a lot of performers through the years. How do you see ventriloquism's future?
There's a big question mark.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah. Unless something is radically done, some change is made, I don't see a whole lot of improvement in the future of ventriloquism.
What kind of change would you be looking for? Performance-wise, material-wise?
Performance-wise, and getting a good name back into the public eye instead of the bad name that some of these perverted movies have caused. I'm hoping that this new book, Dummy Days, will get into the hands of the public and wake them up and make them more aware of ventriloquists, and that the fact that they are around, and they should check into hiring them and everything, you know.
Well, Bill, it's been a pleasure. Again, you know, we could sit here and talk till 4 a.m. of the stories.
Yes.
The stories you've got to tell would take up reels and reels of film. But again, it's a pleasure having you here, and it's an honor being your friend. And
Same here, Pete.
And it's an honor having this for Van Haven for all posterity. So we'll have this generations. My son, who's 3 years old now, when he's 45 years old, can look at these tapes in Van Haven and go, "I met him," and I go, "Yes, you were 3 years old. You met him." All right, thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Pete.
Okay.